People seem to think I hate Subarus for some reason. I don't know why they would think that. Delicious. A few nights ago, I was just browsing, perusing the local list of cars I can't afford until suddenly this post appeared. A 99 Subaru Legacy for sale. Now normally I wouldn't take notice of something like a Legacy, but this one's a sedan with minimal rust. But here's the thing that really piqued my interest. $600. That is a good price. Now maybe it's just me, but I feel like these older Legacy sedans are getting harder and harder to find. I can go online and find a billion Legacy wagons, but the sedans, not so much. Probably because people are driving them straight into the ground. I live in the Salt Belt, so these things just aren't long for the world. But here's one that seems to be in relatively decent condition. But for a price like this, there's got to be a catch. And indeed, there is. Electrical issues. Electrical issues. Electrical issues. Electrical issues. Electrical issues. Electrical issues. Every mechanic in a mile radius just broke out in a cold sweat. From what I hear, electrical issues are regarded as the biggest pain in the ass for mechanics everywhere. But thankfully, I'm not a mechanic. Mechanics are people who can look at all sorts of vehicles and fix their issues. They're problem solvers. And me, I consider myself more of a problem creator. You know those joke signs that they put up at shops? The ones that say something like, "You pay more if you tried to work on it yourself first." They put those signs up because of me. Now I'd like to think I'm pretty keen on wiring. I've done much more complicated projects like Honda K-swapping an Impreza or LS swapping an RX-8, which you should really check out if you haven't yet. So this should be right up my alley. The owner states that the engine is, in fact, getting fuel and spark, but doesn't seem to want to kick over due to some electrical issue. Knowing this all ahead of time, I reached out as fast as I humanly could. I set up a date with the owner, I signed over the title, and here it is. Now, this video is going to be done a little differently from my others. I usually only film and release a video when I reach a good stopping point, when the car is running and driving and I feel like I have a complete story to tell. No half-assing it. I don't want to be like those other channels where they start a project and then disappear halfway through, like a father who stepped out for milk and cigarettes 15 years ago. I also don't want the responsibility of being a father, so instead, think of me as your eccentric uncle. All my videos up to this point have been scripted. I usually whip up a script to help convey what I'm trying to get across. Even now, I'm reading this off of a teleprompter to help keep me on track. But past me could write some totally absurd things and I'd have to say them. Things like, rotaries are reliable. You'll finish your project car, or your dad will be back tonight. But for this video, we're gonna do things differently. We're gonna go off script. So in order to go get my new junk Subaru, we have to get a different junk Subaru off of Shane's trailer. Now this thing's control arm rusted out and broke, and it's just been sitting on the trailer for 3 years. The little man's on his way over right now to try and get the thing off the trailer, so this should be fun. Ugh. Little man, tell the folks what you're doing.
Fixing a piece of shit.
Why didn't you just get a new control arm?
Because John wants his car today.
It's been 3 years. This has been on the trailer for 3 years.
We need it today, so we need to fix this today. Get away.
No, I want to show the folks what you're fucking doing down here. Oh no. What do you think?
I don't know. Just tell the people on YouTube the gas wasn't on.
Yeah.
You're making me laugh and it's making it worse. Stop.
Do you ever look at yourself and think,
Why do you keep panning over to me?
what have I created? Do you feel bad?
No.
Are you going to sell it to someone like that?
No. No, you would not do that. You'd go straight to jail if you did that. That'd be like attempted murder. Is that worse than like cutting coupons, do you think? I've seen dealerships selling shit worse than this though.
Have you?
Oh my gosh, bro. It's heavy.
All right.
Sounds good though.
Oh.
Like that the exhaust sound. That's so sketchy. great.
Yeah.
I tried. I even went over that bump, and that piece isn't structural. It just holds the thing going front to back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Good. What are you doing? Fuck off.
Yeah, cold as fuck. Cold as fuck.
Pretty fucking cold, yeah.
Yeah. 99 Legacy. Boy, am I glad to be working on one of these bad boys again. Let me give you the grand tour. So this is one of the first cars that I've ever really worked on. So I'm really excited to be back and playing with one again. Let me go ahead and just point out some of the nifty features that these things have, including some of the upgrades that this has got. It's got a Bluetooth head unit. That's not bad. It's also got the aux port and a CD player. Convenient. Even the Hondaroo doesn't have that. We got new tires. This thing only sat for apparently 2 months, and that's pretty good by my standards, so I'll take what I can get. New tires is going to be pretty nice because every other car that I've worked on I've had to buy brand new tires for right away, and that gets expensive fast. We've also got blown suspension. Got some quarter panel rust. That comes standard on most Subarus nowadays, so not too bad though. And last but not least, we got the pedicure machine. Most cars don't have this nowadays, and it was a pretty rare feature in these Legacies, so I'm finally glad that I got one that seems to have it. Damn girl, do you drive a Legacy? Because you're the only leg I see. And this isn't just any Subaru Legacy. This is the Subaru Legacy Trim Model SU. Okay, so as the story goes with this car, the previous owner was just driving it down the highway, and all of a sudden it just lost all power. He said that after losing power, it wouldn't start again and hasn't started again since. Their diagnosis was electrical issues, but we'll see about that. Now, he had it towed back to his shop, and whenever he got it back, he plugged in a code reader, and he said that there were some codes, but he didn't remember what they were. And then he said after some more troubleshooting, it just stopped giving him codes altogether. The reader wasn't reading anything at all, actually. Maybe the ECU got wet. We saw water on the floor, so that's possible too. First, an engine requires 3 things to run: fuel, spark, and compression. Now, he did say that it had spark and fuel whenever he was troubleshooting, but then all of a sudden that stopped, which is probably when the ECU stopped working. The previous owner mentioned that he was able to read codes, but can't anymore. This, to me, indicates that the ECU isn't even powering on. And we can check this pretty easily, and I'll show you how. When you turn the key on, most cars will show the check engine light for a few seconds, even if there's no codes. Now, this is to show that the ECU has powered up and is ready to rock. This car doesn't do that. See? Nothing. Also, you can see they removed the ECU cover and were poking around down there. So, how are we going to fix this? I'm going to start by trying to get the ECU online. I'm going to check for power and ground right at the ECU connector. If it looks good, I'll pop another ECU in there and see what happens. After we figure out the ECU solution, we'll crank it over and check for codes. And this should give us some clues towards what the real problem is. All right, let's get to work. Quick status update. I just spent a good 20 minutes or so going through and testing out some of the electrical in the car. The ECU does indeed get 12 volts. I checked the wiring diagram and all the fuses are good. Now, since the ECU has power and ground, it should be turning on the main relay whenever the key comes on, but it's not. The next thing that I'm thinking is that the ECU itself is just fried. So I'm just going to go fetch a different ECU real quick and we'll see what happens with that one. We'll just go borrow one from Shane's car. Yoink! Okay, we have Shane's ECU installed now. Let's see what happens when I turn the key on. Oh yeah, there we go. Check engine light came on. Not only that, I can hear the fuel pump prime too if you listen. With Shane's ECU, everything turns on. You hear the main relay click, you see the check engine light, and you hear the fuel pump prime, which means the ECU is responding. We'll go ahead and try and crank it on Shane's ECU and pull codes from it and see if it tells us anything interesting. That just kind of fired up. I figure we've come this far. We might as well go for a test rip. Oh. We're gonna have to jump it. There we go. Oh, God. Oh, that was loud. This thing smells like burning oil. Do a quick circle real quick and see how it feels. Has power steering. Oh, it does run like shit. Oh yeah, it runs like shit. That is not feeling great. It has no power. Oh, it's got nothing. It's stanky too. Let's see what codes it has. It's got 2 different faults. They're all related to the automatic transmission though. None of them seem to have to do with low power. This thing is a dog. Well, that was unexpected. Not only does it run, it drives, but it doesn't have all the power there. All right, check this out. Loose. And mass airflow car. Gotta seal that up, see if it runs less like shit. Okay, I think I got it working. The ECU turns out it's fine. Apparently, the previous owners snapped off the tab to this locking lobe lever thing. When you put that lever in the lock position, it does more than just hold the ECU connector in. You can see that when you lock it, it shifts the connector over a bit, which must engage all the pins in there or something. And I noticed this when at one point I put Shane's ECU in and forgot to move that locking lever over. The car didn't fire up, the ECU wasn't on, and I'm like, oh shit, I just burned out Shane's ECU. Now my ECU doesn't have that locking lobe anymore, so the alternative that I came up with is this. All you gotta do is just shove a screwdriver next to the connector so it pushes it over just like that locking lever did. Easy. Now I gotta decide if I'm just gonna sacrifice a screwdriver and leave it in there for the rest of this car's life. Alright, I think I've spent enough time off script. I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. Let's go back to the teleprompter thing. Ah, much better. It's now a few weeks later, just past the holidays. In that time, we've gotten 2 snowfalls, both of which have already melted. Shane fixed that red car, and I had to give him his ECU back. And I blew up my K-swap Subaru Impreza. Isn't that fun? Now, I've been driving the Legacy, and overall, things have been all right. The only things of note are that one brake caliper likes to drag sometimes, the engine drips oil onto the exhaust, which burns and makes a great smell, and that the center diff likes to bind up when I take tight turns. Other than that, it runs and drives. Who would have guessed you could fix a car by shoving a screwdriver into the ECU? Wish I would have known that before I paid to tow it home. Now I'm going to show you a couple of things I used to troubleshoot this car. And the first is actually the FSM for this car, or the factory service manual. FSMs contain a ton of stuff you can use to work on a car, things like procedures for repair and troubleshooting guides, but the pages I use most are the wiring diagrams. The specific page I referenced for this car is the ECU pinout, and it's found on the OBD2 diagnostic section titled ECM I/O signals. And keep this handy to know what each pin going into the ECU does. Another tool I used, and frankly one that everyone should have, is an OBD2 scanner. The one I have connects to my phone over Bluetooth and costs like 15 bucks. Just look up ELM 327 and you'll find many like it. You can also use the link in the description below. I use the Torque app to read and clear codes and also to read data from the ECU. I cannot stress how valuable these things are. Go get one right now. I'll wait. Another thing to note is how much I actually paid for this car. The car was listed at $600 and I did in fact give the previous owner that amount. But of course, there are other fees involved, namely title transfer, registration, license plate fees, and the cost to tow it home. All of that added up brings us to just over 900 bucks, but I'm still gonna call it a $600 car because every YouTube video needs just a little clickbait, doesn't it? One interesting little factoid is this car is technically engine swapped. These originally came with the now infamous EJ25D, also known as the head gasket annihilator. The previous owner was tired of doing head gasket jobs, so he instead swapped in the veritable EJ22E. I'm not sure what they put in those things, but out of all the Subaru engines, the 22s have given me the least shit, so I count this as a win. Other than that though, this is a pretty bog standard daily driver, which is a problem. I'm not gonna even try to pretend that I'm gonna leave this car alone. We both know that I have very little self-control, so I'm already thinking of things I can do to this. If you have any suggestions on what I should do to this car, let me know below. Nothing too crazy though. Somebody blew up my other car, so I gotta fix that still. It was me. I'm somebody. As always, don't forget to check out some of the other videos on this channel, and consider subscribing if you're into this kind of thing. Also, follow my socials, where I post hilarious and often relatable memes. Things might be slow here for a bit. I'm still catching up with all of my projects after the holiday season, but keep an eye out for some of the new stuff coming down the pipe. Until then, bye for now. All right, well, let's get to work. Sometimes my comedy genius frightens me. Oh, it's perfect. Oh, she's a beaut.